Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Time once again, Battles American Civil War, Behind the Battles. Today we're going to the last surrendering general for the Confederate Army out of every major general. Right. Not a major general in that sense, but a major general.
what's this?
Talking about Stan Watie. The internet says his last name's pronounced that, so don't get mad at us if it's not right. Watie, Watie. We've heard it all. We've watched about 8 videos with different pronunciations. We're saying Watie. He was actually born at Degatega, meaning stand firm in Cherokee. He was a prominent leader of the Treaty Party faction within the Cherokee Nation who advocated for relocation from ancestral lands. And yeah, they wanted to leave. They were like, let's just do what these guys say, right?
Get the fuck out of here.
Like I said, last general of the Confederates to lay down arms, June 23rd, 1865. We'll get there, but we got a long, long story before we do. He came into the world December 12th, 1806, in a place called Uthkaloga, part of the old Cherokee Nation, now Calhoun, Georgia. Said his Cherokee name was Degataga, which meant stand firm. And fittingly enough, that's exactly what he'd spend most of his life doing, except for he wanted to leave, so it doesn't make any sense. He was born into a well-off Cherokee family. His father, Watie, who went by the English name David Watie, he was a full-blooded Cherokee who decided to embrace the European way of doing things. He said, if we can't live with them, can't beat them, might as well join them, type of thing.
Yep.
He ran a plantation, grew some crops, and like a small number of wealthy Cherokee at the time, he owned some slaves. His mama, Susanna Reese, was of mixed heritage, a Welsh father and Cherokee mother, which, if you know anything about American history, that's all those white boys went for those Indian women. Especially the Cherokee. They love that, apparently.
Yeah, for some reason, I don't know why. Well, this wasn't the typical Cherokee life most people imagine, though. The Watie family was part of the Cherokee elite. They were well-educated, very wealthy. They were walking that fine line between two worlds. They were still proud of their Cherokee roots, but they were also trying to show the United States that their nation could stand on its own, civilized and sovereign, if given the chance. Young Degataga, he grew up watching that balancing act firsthand. His daddy's decision to shift from small-time farming to full-scale plantation work was about more than money. It was a statement. Many Cherokee leaders at the time believed that adopting white agricultural practices, even slavery, would prove their nation's strength and help protect their independence from the constant push of American expansion. Well, guess what, guys? It didn't work out that way, did it?
Watie's family also believed in education. He went to the Moravian Mission School at Spring Place, Georgia, which was a Christian mission that taught reading, writing, arithmetic, and a healthy dose of religious discipline as well, sprinkling a little bit of that.
Right.
For a Cherokee kid in the early 1800s, this was a big deal.
Damn.
The missionaries preached assimilation, but they also handed young Stan tools to navigate both Cherokee and American societies, which were literacy, language, and a worldview that mixed native pride with European practicality.
Oh.
By the time he left school, he could read, write in both English and Cherokee, which was rare. And that bilingual education would later come in handy when he and his brother Elias Boudinot, they got involved in tribal newspapers, politics, and eventually a national controversy that would tear their people apart. Oh, would it?
Son of a bitch.
Poor Elias.
All right, because while most America was arguing over westward expansion, slavery, and states' rights, the Cherokee Nation was facing its own civil war. At the center of it, standing firm, just like his name promised, was Stan Watie. By late 1820s, Stan, he was starting to make a name for himself, not as a warrior quite yet, but as a voice. He got involved in Cherokee public affairs through one of the boldest ideas his nation have ever had, a newspaper. It was called, you guessed it, the Cherokee Phoenix. And it was the first Native American newspaper in all of history.
Ever.
The idea, well, it was to give the Cherokee Nation its own voice. It was printed in both English and Cherokee, so they could speak for themselves instead of being spoken about.
Yeah, but who's the paper reaching besides other Indians?
Right.
In 1826, the Cherokee National Council gave the green light to fund the paper, but it took some hard work to make it happen. Stan, his brother Elias, John Ridge, and Elijah Hicks, they all hustled to raise money for it. 2 years later, February 21st, 1828, the very first issue rolled off the press in New Echota, which is the Cherokee capital. Elias served as editor. Stan occasionally wrote articles. pieces that back Cherokee progress, unity, and defense against the growing threat of outside forces trying to erase them.
Mm-mm. Well, this wasn't some friendly community newsletter. Mm-mm. Phoenix was a weapon. Ink and paper instead of bullets and bayonets. Aimed right at the state of Georgia.
What do they say? The pen is mightier than the sword.
Aimed at the state of Georgia and the mighty United States government. Around that very same time, Georgia started tightening the noose, literally. December 1828, the state legislature passed laws extending state authority over Cherokee land. Well, that move, it wiped out sovereignty of the Cherokee people on paper and opened the floodgates for white settlers to pour in.
Through all that, the Phoenix fought back with words. Showed that Cherokee Nation wasn't some primitive society. It was modern, literate, and organized. They had already written their own constitution back in 1827, which was modeled after the United States'.
Nice.
And leaders like Watie were pushing for schools, farming innovations, and political structure.
See, they're like, we can
assimilate.
Right, come on, man.
The message was clear, though. We can govern ourselves just fine. Leave us alone.
See that? The United States wasn't having that.
But just things were reaching a boiling point. Gold. It was discovered in 1829, right there in Cherokee territory near Dahlonega, Georgia.
Oh.
If there's one thing guaranteed to bring trouble, it's gold. We already know that.
You ain't kidding.
White settlers, that's 1829. That's way before California. White settlers, they came a-running. The state grabbed more control and tensions skyrocketed.
Well, this is when Watie started to see the writing on the wall. He, his brother Elias, and their allies in the Ridge family, they believed the Cherokee couldn't win an endless political tug-of-war with the U.S. They thought the smart move, just negotiate. Let's sign some treaties that might secure compensation, better relocation terms before the tribe was forced out completely. It was a pragmatic, strategic stance, not surrender, but survival. Principal Chief John Ross and most of the Cherokee people, well, they saw it differently. What they believed, it was resisting at all costs. They're like, we need to resist at all costs. That divide between those who wanted to fight removal and those who wanted to adapt to survive, well, guess what? Cherokee versus Cherokee.
What do they say? Turn the other Cherokee? And when that internal battle exploded, Stan Watie would once again live up to his name. Even when it meant standing apart, he stood firm. By the mid-1830s, he found himself in the middle of one of the biggest crossroads in Cherokee history and one of the darkest chapters in American history, period.
Yeah.
Watie, he was part of what became known as the Treaty Party, a small but influential group of Cherokee leaders who believed that removal from their homeland was no longer a question of if, but when.
Right.
December 29th, 1835, at New Echota, the Cherokee capital, yes, Watie joined his brother Elias, Major Ridge, and John Ridge in signing that Treaty of New Echota.
Okay. I mean, it's a move in the right direction, right?
Oh, was it, though?
Nope, because it wasn't a very popular move. Out of roughly 16,000 Cherokee people, only about 39 signed that treaty.
Jeez.
Wow. But those 39, they believed that they were facing the inevitable, which they were. They agreed to cede all Cherokee lands east of the Mississippi.
How are they going to speak for 1,600 people?
Right. In exchange.
1,000 people,
right.
I mean.
They agreed to cede all Cherokee lands east of the Mississippi in exchange for new territory out west in what's now Oklahoma. They wanted money and relocation assistance as well. And it wasn't glory. It was survival on paper. The treaty party's reasoning was grim, but it was also practical. President Andrew Jackson, he'd already made up his mind about Indian removal.
It didn't matter what they wanted to do.
The United States Supreme Court under Worcestershire versus Georgia had actually ruled in favor of the Cherokee back in 1832. They declared that Georgia had no right to even impose any laws on the Cherokee land. But Jackson famously brushed that aside and said, John Marshall has made his decision, and I'll let him enforce it.
So while the law said one thing, the bayonet said another. Georgia militias were already terrorizing Cherokee settlements, burning homes and seizing property.
Fucking bastards.
Federal agents dangled incentives for relocation while settlers closed in from every direction. For Watie and his faction, it looked like a rigged game. And they figured signing a treaty at least gave their people a seat at the table before the table got flipped over entirely.
Nope.
But Principal Chief John Ross and the majority of the Cherokee Nation, they saw things differently. To them, the Treaty of New Echota wasn't a survival plan, it was treason. Ross rallied opposition like never before, gathering over 15,000 Cherokee signatures to petition Congress against ratifying the treaty. It didn't matter. The U.S. Senate pushed it through anyway. May 23rd, 1836, sealing the deal with or without the Cherokee people's consent.
Oh, man. See, that kind of history right there is what is
That's what happens.
ridiculous.
How many times did it happen? We won't move you guys any farther than west of the Mississippi, and then as soon as that happens, well, we'll move you over to Montana. No,
See, the thing is,
we're just gonna wrangle you guys in this little 2 square mile fucking section.
See, the thing is, we wanted to leave you here alone, but as we were leaving, we stumbled across some gold. Sorry,
guys.
Sorry. But it's ours. No.
Was.
No, you see that land over there where the ground's so cracked and it's dry? Yeah. That's your guys's. Well, the closest water source is 200 miles. Yeah, that's also on our land.
Oh, and you're not allowed to catch our rainwater.
Right. In Buffalo, we're going to kill them all.
Right.
What followed was outrage and blood.
Lots of it.
Inside the Cherokee Nation, fury boiled over. Ross's followers branded the signers as traitors. Some even swore vengeance. To outsiders, the Treaty of New Okota might have looked like paperwork, a bureaucratic transaction, But to the Cherokee, well, it was a breaking point. To some, betrayal. To others, it was the only way to avoid annihilation. I'm like, come on, guys, you got to see this, right? I mean, I'm with you. I'd rather stay here, but I'd also rather live.
Yeah.
I want to have kids.
Why? So they can get slaughtered?
Right. Well, either way, the ink on that treaty signed the death warrant of an old world that the Cherokee were used to and loved. Set the stage for the tragic journey. Came next, the Trail of Tears, which everybody knows of. Before the U.S. Army ever started rounding people up, before the words of Trail of Tears became carved into American memory, Stan Watie and his family, they're already on the move. We ain't stupid. Because on the 1st of March, 1837, Watie joined the Ridge and the Bodinat families, along with other members of the treaty party. And they said, you know what, Georgia? Bye. They weren't being dragged away at gunpoint. Nope. They were leaving voluntarily under the terms of the 1835 Treaty of New Okota.
I mean, they negotiated it, so I would assume they would go for it.
Right. This is the very same treaty that split their very same nation into two. To them, this wasn't surrender. It was survival, as we said it a million times.
On their own terms, though.
Right. On their own terms.
As you can imagine, the journey, no easy stroll. They traveled close to 800 miles by land and water through unpredictable weather, rough terrain, and endless logistical nightmares. Food ran short, sickness spread, and wagons broke down. Same miseries that would later define the forced removals as well.
It's like the early Oregon Trail.
Right. Except for those people weren't being forced.
Right.
This early group had one advantage. They did it on their own. No soldiers, no prison camps, no bayonets herding them along.
Right.
Just Cherokee families trying to build a new start before the storm hit.
Damn.
And damn, did that storm hit hard. Just a year later, May 1838, the United States government began the mass roundups. Federal troops and state militias swarmed Cherokee lands, driving roughly 17,000 people into internment camps.
You idiots. We told you.
From there, they marched west in detachments, some by river, most on foot, through the brutal winter of 1838 and 39. Nearly 4,000 Cherokee died along the way from disease, exposure, and starvation.
That's too bad.
1 out of 5 never even made it. Watie's group, having already made the trek a year earlier, they avoided that horror, at least the worst of it.
Right.
But the road west wasn't without loss either. Disease, exhaustion, and short rations still took their toll on them.
Obviously. When they finally reached Indian Territory, modern-day Oklahoma, Watie and the rest of the treaty party settled near Honey Creek in the northeastern corner of the territory. I would have got as far into Oklahoma as possible, not right at the border.
Right.
But we made it here, guys. And then 3 months later, here comes the frickin' cavalry. Under Article 11 of the Treaty of Okota, there were promised lands up to 640 acres per family as compensation for the homes and farms they'd left behind in old Georgia. Federal agents even came out to survey those lands, marking off boundaries in what was supposed to be a fresh start for the Cherokee Nation. I don't think it worked out that way.
Right. Promises on paper didn't mean much once they hit the ground.
Nope.
The United States government, quick to enforce removal, they were slow to enforce protection. Ross loyalists who had come west after the forced removals were furious at the treaty party.
Right.
They saw them not as settlers but as collaborators.
Oh.
Soon those tensions, they turned deadly. June 22nd, 1839, a hot summer day in Indian Territory, became one of the bloodiest and most defining moments in Cherokee history.
Right.
That morning, assassins from Cherokee National Party, loyal to Chief John Ross, and barely opposed to the new Treaty of New Dakota, they carried out their revenge. Major Ridge, the respected elder statesman of the Treaty Party, he was ambushed and shot to death while riding along his trail.
Oh, come on, guys.
His son John, he was dragged from his home and brutally murdered in front of his whole family.
Ooh.
Elias Boudinot, once editor of the Cherokee Phoenix and one of the first Cherokee to embrace Western education, he too stabbed to death outside his home in Park Hill.
Oh.
All three men signed the treaty, we know. To their killers, that made them traitors. To Stan Watie, it made them martyrs. Major Ridge was his uncle.
Right.
John was his cousin. And Elias, he was his cousin and brother-in-law. He was one of his closest friends as well.
Son of a bitch.
Watie himself was supposed to die that same day as well.
Yes, he was.
The assassins had his name on their list, but he got word from a friend just in time. He slipped away before they reached him. From that point on, he was a marked man. A man who would never let his guard down again, either. The killings tore the Cherokee Nation apart. What had been political disagreement now became a civil war within the tribe. The Treaty Party, who believed they'd done what was necessary to save their people from annihilation.
They did.
They're now fighting just to stay alive.
Either way, they would have been.
Right. The National Party, led by Ross, saw the treaty as betrayal that could never be forgiven, and we will hunt down every last one of these signees.
Bastards. Oh, Watie, he wasn't one to sit back and wait. He went on the offensive. He tracked down and confronted those he believed had taken part in the assassinations. Dang. You killed my brother. Prepare to die.
Right.
My name is Stan Watie. Men like James Foreman, one of the alleged attackers.
Doesn't sound very Indian, but...
Right. He found himself on the wrong side of the Watie's rifle. Watie called it self-defense. Others call it vengeance. Either way, Cherokee Nation had become a killing ground.
Just like it always has been.
There's no working court system anymore. No functioning law anymore. What little justice existed came from the barrel of a gun. When Watie and a few of his allies, they were finally brought to trial, witnesses mysteriously vanished. And the courts, well, fell apart under the strain. All acquitted. Said, you know what? Get out of here. Shit.
In truth, the violence was never just about the treaty. It was about how the United States government had manipulated the situation from the start.
Honestly.
Recognizing a small, desperate minority as official Cherokee voice, while ignoring the rest that was literally thousands upon thousands.
As they still do nowadays.
Right. Washington's policy had split the Cherokee Nation in two, and now the blood of that division was staining the soil of Indian Territory. By the end of 39, Stan Watie had lost his uncle, his cousins, and most of his peace of mind as well. The Cherokee people had lost something even greater, their unity. And from that day forward, Watie would live not just as a survivor, but as a man forged by betrayal, vengeance, and war.
Oh, shit. Is that a novel or something?
Could be.
After the dust of removal finally settled down in the late 1830s, Watie, he did what he always did. Adapted, built something out of wreckage. Out west in the rolling green hills of what's now Mays County, Oklahoma, he set up a new life along Spavinaw Creek.
I was born in Spavinaw Creek.
Cherokee Nation was trying to rebuild itself in Indian Territory. Watie, he was very determined to make the best of it. Well, he had no choice. He started a plantation. It was small, not a small one either. By the time 1850s rolled around, his land looked like a plantation from the Old South. He grew crops. He had livestock. Like other members of the Cherokee elite, he used enslaved people to do it. It wasn't something Cherokee practiced. Well, it only a small minority owned slaves, but those who did often held influence and wealth far beyond their numbers.
So, right?
Makes sense.
By the eve of the Civil War, Stan Watie owned nearly 100 enslaved people. In the Cherokee Nation, that was a major operation, one that placed him among the upper crust of Indian Territory's economy.
Damn right.
Across the 5 tribes, enslaved people made up roughly 14% of the total population in 1860. And Watie's holdings were a big reason he was considered one of the wealthiest men west of the Mississippi.
Ooh.
But farming wasn't his only game. Watie had a head for business, and he saw the rivers for what they were, highways of opportunity.
Damn right.
He ran barges and ferries up and down the Arkansas River, hauling freight, passengers, and timber from his sawmill.
I mean, you
He
gotta
had
get
a sawmill, too.
Right. Fuck yeah, shit.
His Watie Ferry became a well-known crossing, connecting trade routes between Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas, and the heart of Indian Territory.
I get it.
He didn't just farm the land, he built an entire commercial ecosystem around it.
No shit.
For Watie, wealth wasn't just about the land.
What was it about?
It was about movement, control, and independence.
Well, good luck with any of those. Still, even with all the success, politics never stayed far behind. Cherokee Nation, Indian Territory, supposed to be united. Reality, two governments trying to share one name. One stood side with John Ross.
Get over it.
Right. Representing the majority who had opposed the Treaty of New Okota, and the other, they stood with Watie and the remaining Treaty Party members. They believed that their 1835 agreement still guaranteed them land, annuities, and autonomy.
You have an annuity and you need cash now.
Just go
Watie
into the Indian land. Ross's people came west after the Trail of Tears took control of the Cherokee Council and started rewriting rules. Under the 1839 Cherokee Constitution, Ross centralized power. He held the title of principal chief and made sure his faction dominated that very council. To the Treaty Party, it looked like less like leadership and more like a one-man tightening his grip on the entire nation.
You got to do what you got to do. Watie, he pushed back. He argued that the lands and the payments guaranteed under the Treaty of New Okota should stay with the people who signed for them.
Yep.
He didn't want Ross's government. Yeah, you guys didn't even want it. Why would you get the stuff for it?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want Ross's government redistributing what had already been promised. But federal delays and broken promises made things worse.
I bet.
Washington didn't enforce half of the treaty's terms.
Why would it?
Leaving Watie's people vulnerable to harassment and land grabs.
Mm-hmm.
By the 40s of the 1800s, the feud had gone from political to personal.
I'm surprised it took that long.
Watie accused Ross of corruption and mismanagement, especially when it came to distributing federal funds and annuities. In 1843, Watie even went to Washington Watie goes to Washington as part of a delegation to protest Ross's leadership. But once again, the federal government sided with the majority.
I mean, what are you going to do?
Ross was too powerful, too entrenched, and to Washington, he was the official face of the Cherokee Nation. That's what we got to negotiate with, guys.
Well,
You only got one thing left to do, Watie. You got to kill him.
that's it. Ross, he also controlled the Cherokee Advocate, the tribe's newspaper, which he used to shape the narrative, obviously. To the public, Watie's faction became troublemakers, painting his ribs, trying to divide the nation further. We came this far to set up a new life, and we don't need it torn apart by these damn people. Troublemakers.
How?
Then 1846 came. You think we got ourselves a truce. That year, Cherokee signed a new treaty with Washington. It meant to bring peace between the old settlers, the Treaty Party, and Ross's National. It granted a collective 7 million acres of land, promised $500,000 for improvements and reparations. There was even a symbolic handshake between John and Watie. Two rivals shaking hands for the cameras. 1846? Maybe. Pretending everything was just fine. Oh, hunky-dory. We can get along just fine now, aren't we? But underneath those fake smiles, nothing had really changed at all. Ross, he still ran the show. Council controlled the money. And the old Treaty Party, well, their complaints about unpaid annuities and lost land just kept piling up.
Yeah, by the 50s, tension between the factions had hardened into something more permanent and more dangerous.
What?
Ross leaned increasingly toward the Union, seeing federal alignment as the best way to protect Cherokee sovereignty. You didn't want to do it before.
Right.
Watie and his southern aligned allies, on the other hand, believed in autonomy first.
Mm-hmm.
When the clouds of war began to gather over the nation, they saw the Confederacy as the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, well...
The Cherokee Nation was about to be split once again, this time not by removal, but by civil war.
Oh, jeez.
Just like before, Stan Watie would find himself standing firm in the middle of it. Spring of 1861, Indian Territory was hanging in the balance, and Stan Watie knew it.
Ooh, he fucking knew it.
Yeah.
When Civil War broke out between the South and North, the Union Army had bigger problems on his hand than a few forts in the western wilderness. We'll get to you in a little while. Trust me, when we get to you, we're going to be pissed. Colonel William Emory, commanding Union forces in the area, got orders. Get the hell out, boys. We got better things to do. Bigger fish to fry. One by one, Fort Washita, Fort Arbuckle, Fort Cobb, abandoned in May of 1861. Emory and his men packed up, burned supplies they couldn't carry, and retreated north into Kansas. Overnight, the Cherokee Nation was left wide open. No soldiers. No protection, no backup, like it was 200 years ago, guys. Right. The United States government had promised for years to defend this Indian territory from outside threats. But when war came in their own land, those promises said, you know what? Maybe if we're still here afterwards, we'll come back with this treaty. 280, it was just another broken treaty.
Down south, the Confederacy, they saw an opportunity. Rebel agents poured into Indian Territory, waving bold promises. Recognition of naval sovereignty.
Oh, they can tell me anything they want to hear.
Protection of their borders. Full rights as allies. And, of course, money, arms, and supplies. For men like Stan Watie, who already leaned toward the Southern way of life anyways, looked like the only practical option left. Right, he's not going to side with the North. He's got slaves. Meanwhile, Chief John Ross was trying to walk a tightrope. He didn't want to back either side, at least not at first. October 1860, he declared Cherokee neutrality. That was before the Union pulled out, before Texas Confederates started pushing north, and before the territory started looking like a no man's land. Without Union soldiers to protect his people, Ross, he was cornered.
Oh, shit.
The pressure built all summer, and by August 20th and 21st, 1861, the Cherokee General Council finally made a decision. They'd side with the South. 2 months later, October 7th, the treaty with the Confederacy was signed. It promised the Cherokee Nation land rights, sovereignty, and mutual defense against northern invaders. On paper, it looked like everything the U.S. government had failed to deliver. But for Stan Watie, it wasn't just about paper. It was about protection. He'd spent decades watching Washington make promises and break them. He's like, maybe Richmond will do better.
Right.
The Confederacy might have been desperate, but desperation meant they were willing to deal and willing to back up their deal. And that made Watie more than ready to negotiate with.
Okay, I like it. So what we got going on here is July of 1861. Civil War, kind of really nobody was going to happen. They thought it was going to be over with by now, but it looks like we're in for a long haul. The old Reb government commissioned Watie as a colonel and gave him permission to raise his own regiment. Hey, buddy, get your people here and just we'll tell you where to go. The Cherokee Mounted Rifles, they call themselves. It was a volunteer unit made up mostly of his own followers. Mixed blood Cherokees who shared his southern loyalties and saw the Confederacy as the better bet. Well, these men, they weren't formal soldiers in polished uniforms. Nope, not at all. They were just frontiersmen, horseback, armed and fast and tough. Watie equipped them with Confederate-issued rifles and their own mounts. Oh, nice. And by late 1861, they were patrolling Indian Territory, defending Cherokee settlements, and watching the northern border for raiders out of Kansas. And that works out, hey.
Doing what we would probably do anyways, but now we got some protection from
a country.
Other country.
Right. But hey, man, you with us, we'll do what these motherfuckers said.
And we'll give you weapons.
Right.
Maybe some money.
Right.
Their job wasn't to chase glory, it was to survive. Yes. Watie's command emphasized speed and mobility. Hit fast, disappear faster. Ooh. They knew the land, they knew the rivers, and they fought for something far closer to home than Richmond or Washington ever imagined.
Right.
While the rest of America was tearing itself apart over slavery and states' rights, Stan Watie was fighting for something else. It was a promise that his people wouldn't be abandoned again. And for a while, the Confederate flag seemed to offer that. Of course, war has a way of testing promises. And so do white people that lie.
Right.
Before long, Stan Watie and his Cherokee mounted rifles would find themselves right in the thick of it, fighting not only the Union Army, but sometimes their own people.
Mm-hmm.
When the Civil War came to the frontier, Stan Watie and his Cherokee mounted rifles, they weren't sitting it out. They rode straight into the fight like warriors they are.
Yep, got to do it. Mm-hmm. The first major test, Battle of Pea Ridge in Arkansas, 7th of March, and the 8th, 1862. Watie's men farted hard, and the Union was like, there they are. I hear that Cherokee fart.
Coming down the ring. I ain't heard no farts like that since I don't know way in
Georgia. No, I don't know. The first major test came at Battle Pea Ridge in Arkansas, 7th and 8th of March, 1862. Watie's men fought under Confederate General Benjamin McCulloch, serving as scouts and skirmishers on the edges of the main line.
I bet they did. Send these guys out first.
They weren't there to hold center. Nope. They were there to move fast, hit hard, and then by gone, vanish into the woods or in the thick woods and the rolling hills of northwest Arkansas.
They're in Arkansas, and I don't call them
right. Watie's Cherokees did exactly that. They hit hard, they hit fast, and they're gone in a flash. They ambushed Union artillery, overran positions, briefly captured several Federal guns. They got it. Oh, here you go. Just kidding. Just kidding. Captured several Federal guns before the Confederates were forced to retreat. Here's a rare sight. Native warriors on horseback charging cannon batteries? What? Rattle the old bluecoats who weren't used to fighting men that mobile.
Yeah.
They're like, what the hell?
But when the smoke cleared, the South lost the battle. The Confederate Army retreated, short on food, ammo, and everything else. People. Pea Ridge made it clear. The Western Confederacy was running on fumes. Indian Territory was about to become its own kind of battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
It's one fought with raids, ambushes, and long rides through the wilderness.
Right.
Stan Watie, he wasn't the kind of general who waited for orders from Richmond either. He fought his war on his terms.
Damn right. I would too.
Who's going to tell him different?
Right. Take them 2 weeks to get there.
Right. His Cherokee mounted rifles specialize in guerrilla warfare. Fast, unpredictable, and devastating.
Damn right.
They knew every trail, every creek. They're fucking Viet Cong.
Right, come on.
They knew every trail, every creek crossing, and every hiding place between the Arkansas and the Kansas lines.
You ain't getting.
They said, catch me if you can.
Dude, that's why if Indians, so boneheaded, just like this story right here. If all these tribes, all these nations would have been, dude.
Well, they tried. They just couldn't do anything with the superior firepower the fucking army had.
Yeah, but they outnumbered U.S. by fucking thousands. It's insane. But I guess one arrow takes out one and a cannon takes out 17.
Right.
What you gonna do?
Right.
Operating out of bases south of the Arkansas River, Watie's men struck Union supply lines, patrols, outposts in Kansas and Mizzou. They'd ride hard, grab what they needed, burn the rest, disappear into the timber before anybody can respond. What the hell was that? What they lacked in numbers, they made up in mobility and sheer nerve. They didn't give a fuck. By the 6th of May, 1864, Watie's leadership finally recognized when the old Confederacy promoted him to Brigadier General.
Look at that.
The only Native American ever to reach that rank during the war. He took command of mixed brigade of Cherokee, Creek, and Seminole. Oh. But his promotion didn't come with reinforcements or better supplies. Nope, just headaches. His ranks were shrinking from desertions and then infighting also. I mean, come on. The result, deep divisions among the tribes. Half the Indian Territory was loyal to the old Bluecoats, half to the Rebs. And everyone was tired, they were hungry, and they're suspicious of everybody else. Still, Watie made do with what he had, and he also made it count. 19th September 1864, Watie teamed up with Confederate General Richard Gano.
Book 'em, Gano.
Pull off one of the boldest raids of the entire Civil War. And you guessed it if you said the Second Battle of Cabin Creek, baby. It was a Union wagon train, 300 wagons,
Damn.
hauling supplies at Fort Gibson.
Imagine having to stop and wait for that.
To Fort Gibson.
Late for work, damn it.
Right. Right. Watie and Gano ambushed it at dawn. Fight was short. Fight was brutal. When it was over, Watie's men had captured the entire train.
Damn.
Food, ammo, weapons, clothing, and supplies. I think them are all supplies. Worth over $1 million. Oh my. Well, for context, this was enough to keep the entire Confederate force to Indian Territory supplied for months.
Damn. Wasn't his only big score either. Just 3 months earlier, June 15th, 1864, Watie's troops had seized the Union steamboat J.R. Williams as it chugged up the Arkansas River. This haul included 150 barrels of flour, 16,000 pounds of bacon, and piles of other vital goods. Every time the Union tried to move supplies through the territory, Watie made him pay for it. These raids were textbook frontier warfare. Small forces hitting big targets, crippling logistics, and keeping the enemy off balance.
All right.
They didn't win the war, but they kept it alive in the West long after most of the Confederacy had already collapsed, as we know.
Right.
But while Watie was scoring victories in the field, the war was ripping the Cherokee Nation apart. That pro-Union faction still loyal to old John Ross.
Let's give it up.
They all considered Watie a traitor. Skirmishes broke out between Cherokee fighting for opposite sides. Brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor. It's in our opening.
Right.
The Confederacy, meanwhile, never fully backed its native allies either. Supplies were short, pay was late, reinforcements were practically non-existent.
Right.
After Union victories like Honey Springs in July 1863, which was the largest battle ever fought in Indian Territory, many native troops simply went home. They went home. Hunger and hopelessness, they were more persuasive than any general's orders.
You ain't getting. Yep.
Fuck this.
There's a shit show.
We know how to hunt. You guys remember that or what?
Right. By late 1864, Watie's army was a shadow of what it's been. Disease, desertion, constant movement, whittled his numbers down. He refused to quit. He kept fighting, even when the Confederacy itself was on its last legs. Summer of 1865, Civil War all but done. The Confederate dream gone. Flags gone. Generals scattered. The cause dead. But out in the far reaches of the Indian Territory, one man still holding strong. And you guessed it, his name's Stan Watie, the Cherokee General who fought his war on horseback through dust and smoke and broken promises. Just commanding what was left of the Confederate Indian forces. Scattered, hungry, and running low on everything but grit. His men...
Dan Campbell leaving the way, baby.
Taking kneecaps. His men kept up their fight long after the big names back east had called it quits.
He did. 2 months had passed since Robert E. Lee surrendered to Appomattox. News traveled slow on the frontier, and even slower for those who didn't even want to hear it.
Right.
The war was over for everyone else, but not for Watie. Out here, among the ridges and rivers of the Choctaw Nation, it wasn't just about the Confederacy anymore. It was about survival and dignity. These guys are trying to survive.
You ain't kidding.
And finally, though, June 23rd, 1865, Watie, he agreed to meet with Union officials at Dokesville, which is near Fort Towson in what's now southeastern Oklahoma. The meeting took place inside the Choctaw. Inside the Choctaw Nation, a fitting place for the last embers of the rebellion to flicker out.
I mean, you got to do something here, guy.
He signed a formal ceasefire with Lieutenant Colonel Asa Matthews, representing the United States, obviously.
Right.
With that signature, the final organized Confederate force in the Trans-Mississippi and the very last Confederate army everywhere laid down its arms.
Look at that.
For context, General Edmund Kirby Smith commanded the Confederate Trans-Mississippi Department. He already surrendered a month earlier, May 26th.
Yep.
But Watie, he held out. Partly out of principle, partly out of isolation, and partly because his command, they were still roaming the countryside, living off the land and avoiding capture. Didn't even know what the hell was going on.
Right. He's like, I got people out there. He wasn't being stubborn for glory's sake. He was waiting for terms that wouldn't destroy what was left of his people. With help from Choctaw Principal Chief Peter Pitchlin.
Richard Belding.
Right. Watie negotiated a surrender that spared his men from immediate reprisals and gave them a chance to return home without retribution. Like, hey, man.
Get on it. Get on.
I get why you did what you did, but we're back to normal here. Right. It was as practical as every other decision he's ever made. It was measured, cautious, and focused on survival. When the ink dried at Dokesville, Stan Watie became the last Confederate general to surrender his arms.
Yes, he did.
It's kind of fitting in a way, if you think about it. From the beginning, his war had been different. Fought on different ground, for different reasons, under different skies. He'd been the only Native American to ever hold the rank of Brigadier General in the Confederate Army. And last to give it up.
Ain't that crazy? Mm-hmm. All the other Whiteys gave up, and he was the last one.
Damn. His troops, Patchwork, Cherokee, Seminole Creek, and Osage warriors, had outlasted nearly everybody. Not because they believed in the Confederacy's grand cause. No, not at all. Only because they were fighting for their own land, their own people, and whatever small piece of control they could keep in a world that seemed determined to take it all away.
Well, when Stan Watie rode home after his surrender, there were no bands playing, no flags waving. Just silence, wind, and the long shadow of a war that had divided not only a nation, but his own. And with that, the last Confederate flag in the field finally came down.
There it is, boys.
Fluttering to rest in the red dust of Indian Territory. When the guns finally went quiet in 1865, Stan Watie laid down his arms, but not his fight. The war, you see, it left Cherokee Nation shattered, divided between those who'd stood with the South and who'd thrown in with the North. Watie, as the principal chief of the pro-Confederate Cherokee faction, he wasn't about to sit by while John Ross and his Union-aligned government took full control of everything the Cherokee had left.
Nope.
So in early 1866, he packed his bags and headed east, not to the battlefield, but to Washington. Watie joined a Southern Cherokee delegation that included Elias Boudinot and William Adair, another prominent Confederate Cherokee. Their mission was simple in theory, but impossible in practice.
Right.
They wanted to convince the United States government to recognize the Southern Cherokee as their own legitimate government, separate from Ross's Union faction.
It's not going to happen, guy.
They came to Washington to sue for peace, not beg for mercy. Their argument was straightforward. During the war, the Confederate Cherokee had controlled large portions of their own land, managed their own affairs, fought under their own flag. They weren't rebels against the United States, Watie argued. They were independent people who had been caught in a war they didn't even start.
Exactly.
All they wanted now was fair treatment and a chance to govern themselves without being forced under Ross's thumb again. Just do your own shit, guy.
Well, guess what? As usual, Washington, they weren't listening. Federal officials, No such thing as Southern and Union Cherokee. They're just one Cherokee Nation. And that nation had picked the wrong side. The government's attitude was very clear. Cherokee was a whole...
Now, I bet if the Southern had the controlling chief and they controlled all the money and shit for the Cherokee Nations, and the Northern people went to him and said, recognize us as one Northern nation outside of these guys, I guarantee they would have.
Right. Most likely.
Bitches.
Right. The Cherokee as a whole had allied with the Rebs. And as a result, they're going to have to pay the price. The Commissioner of Indian Affairs, D.N. Cooley, made sure of that, too.
A white guy, by the way.
He told his negotiators to favor the Union line Cherokee, shut the door on any talk of separate recognition for Watie's faction at all. In the eyes of the Union, loyalty mattered more than history. Reconstruction was going to be about control, not compromise, boys. Just get it through your head. Get through your head, bud. You have no...
I'm the captain now.
You do what I say.
July 19th, 1866, a new treaty was signed, and it was a bitter one. The Cherokee kept about 4 million acres of land, but the price was steep. The treaty abolished slavery in the nation, granted full citizenship and land rights to the newly freed men and women who had lived among the Cherokee, and forced the nation to give up chunks of its western territory for railroad development and resettlement by other tribes. For Stan Watie and his allies, it was a painful reminder the war had ended, but the losses hadn't. The United States government had no interest in revisiting pre-war promises of sovereignty. Everything's changed out the window now. Cherokee Nation was still standing. I'm still standing. But it was under new rules, and they were Washington's rules.
Damn, Watie's delegation left the capital with nothing to show for. No special recognition, no restitution, no independent government for the Southern Cherokee. Nothing. Waste of a trip. Treaty had been negotiated and ratified mostly by Ross's Union faction, and it bound everyone, even those who fought on the other side. 1866 treaty marked the true end of Stan Watie's long struggle. It wasn't with gunfire. It was ink. Cherokee Nation survived, but the price was its own independence. The federal government used Reconstruction to bring every native nation under tighter control, prioritizing railroads, settlement, and national unity over old promises of self-rule. It's good for you until it's good for us.
Right.
This is good for you until it's good for us, and then it's bad for you.
Right. And great for us.
Right. For Watie, right. It must have felt like the final betrayal of all he fought for. His ancestors, his cousins that brutally got murdered in Georgia. One last broken treaty in a lifetime full of broken promises.
Yeah. He returned home to Indian Territory to his plantation along the Spavinaw Creek, carrying the same quiet resolve that had defined him his whole life. He had fought for his people's right to choose their own path, first through politics, then through war, and finally through diplomacy. Though he lost almost every battle in the end, he never stopped doing what his name meant from the beginning, standing firm. Over years of fighting, first against his own people, then against the Union, Stan Watie finally laid down his burdens.
I'm done.
Following the bitter negotiations of the 1866 Reconstruction Treaty, Watie, he knew his time in politics was done. Cherokee Nation had changed, and there wasn't much room left for men who'd fought under the Confederate flag. So in 1867, he left public life behind and went home, or what was left of it. He returned to Honey Creek, the land he'd built with his own hands before the war, tucked into the rolling hills of what's now Delaware County, Oklahoma.
Really?
The home wasn't what it used to be. His plantation had been looted, burned, and stripped bare during the war.
Damn.
The fences were gone, the fields overgrown, and the wealth he'd once built through trade and farming was nothing but a memory.
Son of a bitch.
What are you gonna do, bud? That's your fault for settling right on the eastern edge of the fucking state, dude.
Well, he didn't just give up. He did what he always did. Rebuilt. Years after the war were hard on everybody, especially in the Indian Territory, but especially on Confederate Cherokees.
Yeah.
Many lost their land, their slaves, their fortunes.
Not my slaves!
And the political power they once even held, even if it was a little, they had some.
Right.
Watie tried to keep the plantation running, but recovery was slow, if even at all. The economy, ruins, old animosities, still there, though, between the Union and the Southern Cherokees. That's never going to go away, boys. Yeah. By 1871, Watie, he's a tired old man. He had spent his long life for his people. for survival, and for a place in the world that never stopped changing around him. He just fought. That September, whatever it was, it finally caught up with him. Because on September 9th, 1871, at the age of 64, the Cherokee General took his final rest, his final sleep. He was buried with Masonic honors in rich family plot at Polson Cemetery. Locals called their Old Ridge Cemetery near Honey Creek. No grand speeches, no military parades, no fanfare. Quiet burial among kin, surrounded by the land that he refused to abandon. Even in death, the divisions of his life lingered. The Cherokee Nation remained split. The wounds of that rift would take generations to heal, if they ever did. But history remembers him, not just as a Confederate general or a controversial figure. He was a man. He was a man who lived and died by the meaning of his name, Daga Daga, the one who stands firm. Through triumph and tragedy, loyalty and loss, Stan Watie never stopped standing. And when he finally fell, it wasn't in battle. It was in peace. On the same ground he fought his whole life to call home. Wow.
The only Native American to hold the rank of Brigadier General and the last Confederate Brigadier General to surrender. Look at that, huh?
Oh, if he would join the Blue Coats, he probably could have had himself a decent career. Maybe.
Could have had a statue somewhere, huh?
Right.
Does he have a statue somewhere?
He probably does.
Yeah.
It's called a tombstone.
Right. Might not.
Right.
So yeah, that's a little talked about guy in history. Everybody assumes it was Robert E. Lee or even Johnson that was the last to surrender. No, now you guys all know it was old Stan Watie. He waited and standed.
So was he before or after the last battle? Thought it was in Texas?
Technically in Texas. May, yeah, so he went in July, so.
Oh, it's true. No shit.
Yes, sir. So he was the last of the last.
Last of the
Although
last.
there was like a
Last.
ship out there and somewhere that didn't
There was.
surrender officially until like October or something. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, the last of the last of the last.
We don't got the Navy as real foes.
The last of the last of the last. That's Stan Watie's story. The next 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, we're going to cover not people, but we're going to cover what could today be considered as war crimes that both sides have committed.
Oh. Okay.
We'll have the Sand Creek Massacre
It's going to be a
next
lot.
week, which is the Union when they carried out a massacre of 150 to 200 Native Americans.
Yeah, that was
The
rough.
majority of whom were women, children, and elderly non-combatants who offered little resistance.
And there's multiple
That
stories.
became a whole one. And then we'll have the Saltville Massacre we'll have the Fort Pillow Massacre by the Confederates that killed unarmed black soldiers when they had their hands up and surrendered already.
That's too bad.
And we'll have like the Saltville ones. We'll have a few, and we'll go into detail more a little bit about the scorched earth tactics by Sheridan and Sherman, and examine whether that could be
And
considered
then the
war
one
crimes.
from that did that up north. What was his name?
We'll also have the Palmyra executions of POWs by the Union. We've already talked about Andersonville and Camp Douglas. We got the guerrilla raids in Kansas and Missouri.
Yeah,
We'll talk a little bit more about with Quantrill's Raiders and his guys. Also, Order Number 11 in Missouri, which forced people to evacuate
Within 15 days or die.
or burn it down, and burned it down they did. So,
Yes, they did.
yeah, next few weeks we'll cover some war crimes, since everybody wants to say we favor these side or we're doing this side. We're gonna show you both sides for pieces of fucking shit that did some
Yep.
dirty ass stuff. So
Yep.
keep it here. You already know it. Subscribe, like, comment, share with your friends, and leave a review wherever you do your podcast, YouTube, wherever you're listening. And we'll see you next week for the massacre of Sand Creek, and a massacre it was because some shit went down there.
Shit went down.
And yeah, we'll see you next week. Battles of the American Civil War,
Bang,
Beyond the
bang.
Battles of the Mother Michiganders. We F.